Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this mono-red equipment combo deck built around Gilgamesh, aka Godo Bandit Warlord, a 6 mana 3/3. When it enters we get to search our library for any equipment card and put it straight onto the battlefield for free, and then whenever Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai we control. After this phase there's an additional combat phase, so that's an easily exploitable ability if we combine it with Helm of the Host, which is conveniently an equipment we can find when Godo enters the battlefield. Now we do still need to pay the 5 mana equip cost, which is quite steep, but then at the beginning of combat each turn we get to create a token that's a copy of the equipped creature, except it's not legendary, so we can have that token in play alongside the legendary Godo. Once again we get to find another equipment and put it in play, but more importantly that token also has haste, so we can immediately attack with it. We get to untap Godo and or Samurai and take an additional combat phase, which in turn triggers Helm of the Host again, making another Godo, rinse and repeat, so we essentially get to attack with an infinite army of Godos, which will eventually wear down all the opponent's defenses and attack for lethal. So that's the main combo we're trying to set up. So then taking a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few different categories, and by far the largest one is the ramp section, since we need 6 mana to cast our commander, which is already a lot, especially if we need to replay it once or twice to fight through opposing removal spells or counter spells. And then we also need 5 mana to equip the helm, so that's at least 11 mana if we want to do both in one turn, which can maybe catch the opponent off guard. And then we've got our removal section, which is mostly board wipes to deal with opposing go-wide creature decks and other decks that might be off to a faster start, so we can potentially catch back up. Then we've got our equipment, which mostly revolves around Helm of the Host, but there's some other useful equipment we can find, some making creatures as well, so we can get on the board outside of Gilgamesh. And then the miscellaneous section has a few more creatures that synergize with equipment and some other ways to protect our combo. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana acceleration, we can maybe kick things off with the Chromox. We are pretty light on red cards in this deck and we can't imprint artifacts, so the Chromox is not always going to be online right away, but the extra mana can be worth it. Strike it Rich just makes a treasure, so it's a one-time use, but we can also flash it back. The Bauble is usually not a great ramp option, but of course we're not playing green, so we'll have to take what we can get. Then there's the Strike Master, so that's a creature that makes mana, similar to our Ornithopter of Paradise. These aren't quite as good since they might get swept up by our own board wipes and are more vulnerable to opposing interaction, but again we just need to play as many ramp cards as we can get our hands on. And then at 2 mana we also have the typical ramp artifacts, Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, Guardian Idol, Mind Stone, Solar Transformer, and the Iron Crag. Also has a bit of equipment synergy. Then Treasure Map takes a while to generate additional mana with it, but once we do we get an extra land and a bunch of treasure tokens, so that can also set up our combo. Excavation Explosion doubles up as interaction, dealing 4 damage as opposed to the paper version, which is only 3, but more importantly we also get to make a Power Stone token, which still helps us cast our artifacts and maybe pay our equip costs. There's Cursed Mirror, which can also maybe copy a creature when it enters. Fable with a Shaman token can also help us ramp. There's Mana Flare, quite dangerous to play, but if we're the ones that can set up a lethal combo with enough mana, it may be worth it. And then we continue with the Palladium Mirror, which can also make 2 mana, similar to a Worn Power Stone, which is not a creature. Then File can also maybe draw us extra cards. Relic of Legends can maybe tap our commander to make an extra mana. The Celestus can also maybe switch between day and night to improve our hand. Then at 4 mana we have Chandra, can deal 4 damage to a creature, and the +1 could generate 2 red mana, so that's also quite useful. The Fire Crystal discounts our red spells by 1, gives our creatures haste, can also maybe activate it to make a copy. Then there's Iron Crag Feat, making 7 mana, although we can only cast 1 more spell this turn, still useful in ramping out our commander, or maybe setting up our commander plus equipping Helm of the Host all at once, since we can still use that mana to equip Helm of the Host. Then at 4 mana we also have Firemine Vessel, Hedron Archive, and the Ring, all making 2 mana. There's Solemn, finding a land when it enters and drawing a card when it dies. Fires of Invention is also a bit nerfed in Historic compared to the paper version, costing 5 as opposed to 4, but it's still pretty useful in maybe helping cast our commander and then still have the mana left to equip Helm of the Host. Also makes it easier to redeploy our commander and pay the commander tax. Then Goldspan Dragon makes treasures when it attacks, can now sacrifice those for 2 mana. Gilded Lotus makes 3 mana right away. There's a Might Stone and Weak Stone, which can still make mana to cast our artifacts and pay for equip costs, and can also draw or take out a creature when it enters. And then our interaction includes a Lightning Bolt at 1 mana, and then it's just board wipes, Pyroclasm dealing 2, a bunch of 3 mana sweepers dealing 3 damage with some additional utility, and then at 4 mana we've got Storm's Wrath dealing 4, and at 5 mana both Burn Down the House and Hour of Devastation can deal 5 to both creatures and planeswalkers alike. And then our equipments include Shadow Spear in case we need a lifelink or trample. Occasionally, the ability to remove Hexproof and Indestructible can also come up. Chainsaw is the only removal spell we can find, dealing 3 damage when it enters. The boots can give Hexproof and haste. There's the Samurai's Katana. Turning a creature into a samurai also has additional synergy with Godo, as we get to untap those, and being able to find an extra creature with our ability is also very useful. There's the Mithril Coat, which is often the second equipment we want to get after maybe getting Helm of the Host, as we can make Godo indestructible, and then it's going to be a lot harder for the opponent to interact with it. There's Nettle Cyst as another living weapon equipment that will generate a creature for us. There's Sword of Fire and Ice for protection from blue and red and some additional abilities, and Sword of Forge and Frontier with pro red and pro green can also come in handy in certain matchups. Then there's of course our Helm of the Host, Dragonwing Glider, another equipment that comes attached to a creature, so now a 4/4 with haste and flying. And finally, Embercleave can also immediately attach to one of our creatures when it enters, giving +1/+1, a double strike and trample. Then our miscellaneous section includes the Blacksmith's Talent, can level it up to help pay for equip costs, as we now get to attach equipment for free, although it does happen at the beginning of combat, which is the same time as we would normally trigger Helm of the Host, so we can't quite combo off with a level 2 talent with Godo in play. We'll still need to wait another turn, but it can certainly come in handy. Then we've got Fervent Champion, which can also maybe equip some of our swords for free, so we can immediately start swinging and getting those additional triggers from Sword of Fire and Ice dealing damage and drawing cards, or Forge and Frontier exiling additional cards and playing extra lanes as well. And then there's Freya, which can make mana that we can spend to cast equipment or pay for equip abilities, so that still helps. Raban can also equip things for free, so that can also give us an alternate game plan. Defense Grid is here to protect us against instant speed removal and counter spells. Firion can also make it so our equipment are cheaper to activate, so that can also maybe help us the turn we're comboing off, essentially giving us a 2 mana discount for Helm of the Host. And then we've got the Toll Collector, another way to equip things for free onto it. And finally, the One Ring, another nice source of card advantage, can also maybe protect us from a lethal attack for 1 turn. And then the mana base doesn't have a ton of utility lands, just 36 basic mountains. 2 lands I would try to include are Buried Ruin to return artifacts from our graveyard in case Helm of the Host gets destroyed, and Cavern of Souls to make our commander uncounterable, can also be very useful against blue decks. Otherwise, Inventor's Sphere can occasionally gain life or tutor up an artifact, and Arena of Glory could give our commander haste, but usually we're not gonna need it. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw, facing off against Jenova. Our hand seems functional. No answer to their commander, but at 5 toughness it's not going to be easy to remove. So we just want to ramp out Godo and set up our combo. Kami I can Pyroclasm, that's probably worth it. And then next turn I can still Mindstone plus Ornithopter. Otherwise, Kami immediately doubles their counters from Jenova. And Nantuko is next, also would be nice to sweep away at some point. And a Dark Ritual can still play their commander. So yeah, got 2 lands in play, our opponent's got 1,000,000 permanents already. So can't feel great about it. Next turn, I've got a few options, but probably just Crystal. Can maybe start setting up Treasure Map. Now Tumblewag can also give Jenova additional counters. Nantuko is going off. There's a couple board wipes we could draw here to save us. Although I could also just cast my commander, hope they can't remove it with their last card in hand, and then next turn we can combo kill. That might be the most realistic option. Because yeah, even with the discount from Fire Crystal, we're pretty far from playing Godo and equipping in the same turn. So maybe I should just go for the Hail Mary. Just an innocent little 3-3. Next turn it's going to be infinite 3-3s. But don't tell my opponent. Oracle of Moldiah is acceptable. Trawler on top. So as far as we know, they don't have removal. Tumblewag and gets saddled. Can double a creature's +1 counters. Still don't think they're getting to 18 this turn, but it's going to be close. That's 8. So I can block a 2-powered creature, take 6, 14, 15, 16, 17, fall to 1. Could not be any closer. Opponent draws. Ooh, Flare of Malice. Wow. And they can cast it by sacking Jenova. That's brutal. A free removal spell. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do here. Opponent has the answer at the ready. Hexproof is not gonna help. So, yeah, they got us. Can maybe see what we draw of Mind Stone. Arena of Glory. Alright. Cast your Flare. I guess the white can also be sacrificed instead of Jenova now. GG's. Well, that was an incredibly lucky top deck. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing off against a Lumra, mono-green Landfall. Our hand is functional, might end up casting Anger before we play the Mirror, so we can deal with the opponent's mana elves. And then Mirror can get us closer to Gilgamesh. Don't expect too much interaction from the mono-green deck. Opponent finds Birds of Paradise with Once Upon a Time. So Transformer into Anger, hopefully can catch us back up. Now Vigorous Farming. Could also just ignore Anger of the Gods and go straight for Mir to set up Godo on the following turn. So for now, Heirloom into Halfling. Alright, so now that they played another Mana Elf, I'm fine to Anger. Brotherhood's End also an option. There's a chance I end up destroying artifacts with it, or want to damage Planeswalkers. So we'll Anger for now. So that set them back on mana. Spelunking a little bit redundant with a Vigorous Farming. Okay, so this turn could go One Ring activates. I think Mirror plus Champion's fine too. Getting us closer to equipping Helm of the Host. So our opponent can likely play Lumra. One fetch land in graveyard already. And they milled no lands, so just a 1. Okay. So next, probably go for a Godo. And then get our Helm of the Host. Hope our opponent can destroy it. And then next turn we're ready to combo off. I guess I can equip it onto the Fervent Champion right now, thanks to the 3 mana cost reduction. So we get to make an extra 1/1. Opponent with a Mossborn Hydra can grow into quite the win condition. But it doesn't stop our combo. So 2 unknown cards in hand. They can maybe draw once again with the Heirloom. So I don't know if there's a point in blocking, since they would probably just give Trample. So our opponent gets to deal 6 and draw. Alright, can you stop Helm of the Host? And Dust Bowl could hit our Inventor's Fair. And our opponent's got their own One Ring. Alright, that does stop us from just winning the game. It does not stop us from comboing off. So that's what we'll do. Find a bunch more equipment. Opponent can block, but at some point they would no longer be able to, or else they lose their creatures. So we can find all the equipment in our deck pretty much. Can put Mithril Codes on the legendary Godo. Find Nettle Cyst, perhaps. Now I can actually get Chainsaw as well to finish off a Lumra. Opponent does block since they maybe just want to replay it. So yeah, between Chainsaw and Brotherhood's End we can finish off Mossborn Hydra. So I'm gonna just keep getting more equipment. I guess maybe I shouldn't have gotten a creature that's gonna die to my own Brotherhood's End. But yeah, just keep getting more equipment. Does Shadow Spear stop the One Ring in any way? It's just hexproof and indestructible, so not really. But yeah, the Hydra could win the game next turn if we're not careful, so I definitely need to deal with it. Keep searching up equipment. Can put Embercleave on a 3/3 so it survives Brotherhood's End. And then at some point get our Chainsaw, which is the card that matters the most here. Gotta wait for the double strike animation. And get Chainsaw. And get a few more swords, just in case. Alright, we've put all our equipment on the battlefield. Would be painful if I selected the wrong mode on Brotherhood's End. 3 damage, please. Alright, so Hydra's gone. And then I guess we can go for Hexproof on top of Indestructible. So can our opponent find a way out? Replace Lumra. Alliance will enter untapped thanks to Spelunking. And they did mill an Emrakul. That one could have been pretty powerful, but yeah, our opponent explodes. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Roxanne. Normally a very hard matchup for a lot of decks that rely on creatures. Even decks that want to remove Roxanne with removal as opposed to counterspells will struggle. Our deck kind of just wants to ramp into a combo, so it should line up favorably. That being said, I do need my hand to be off to a quick start, and without any 2-mana accelerants, I don't think this qualifies. Defense grid not going to be particularly useful. So this hand's not bad, but on the draw against Roxanne, I think we need something better. This does not really meet that description, I'm afraid. Alright, I'll give this a try. Still don't love it. Can maybe keep Sweltering Suns, and then there's a chance we go turn to Ironcrag, turn 3 Sweltering Suns, deal with a bunch of mana dorks, and then we can play the Strike Master afterwards. But our opponent's just gonna ramp by putting additional lands in play, so we can't really stop that. Can play Transformer for now. Next turn Ironcrag plus Strike Master is an option, but at 1 toughness it just gets taken out by Roxanne, so that's kind of the problem with mana creatures against this deck. Roxanne basically pays for its own commander attacks, so taking it out turn after turn is also not a winning strategy. Alright, now Hedron Archive gives us something bigger. We need, in order to combo off 11 mana, 6 for Godo, 5 to equip it with Helm of the Host. So we're not quite there yet. Opponent does step out for Roxanne. And a Fervent Champion. So what are my options? Cast a Sweltering Suns, which doesn't really slow the opponent down. Playing Strike Master is just asking the opponent to replay Roxanne and take it out. So then we're going to be pretty much in the same spots, except our opponent got to make an extra token with Roxanne, so we're possibly further behind. Or I can just play Godo and then hope they can deal 3 damage to it next turn. And then there's a chance we can combo. Yeah, it's 3 mana to equip Ironcrag, so I don't think we want to transform it. Otherwise, getting it up to additional toughness could have been worth it. Could of course get a Chainsaw as well to answer Roxanne, but then we're not threatening any combo or anything powerful. Can go for a Sword of Fire and Ice, equip that. That's sort of reasonable, since that protects Godo from burn spells. Can block Roxanne. So maybe that's kind of the safe middle ground. Although we can also expect the opponent to just ramp out something huge and scary next turn. So then I'm not sure my creature with a Sword of Fire and Ice is going to be good enough. So yeah, this is a very tough spot. Mithril Coat for Indestructible, again fine, but where do we go from there? So I think it's still Helm, but I don't have very high hopes. Opponent's gonna deal 3 damage, so that immediately answers Godo. Now if I replay it, I can maybe go for Indestructible. As our opponent plays a Voltborn. So that's kind of what I mentioned with getting Sword of Fire and Ice. Would not have been great in the face of a Voltborn Tyrant. Strike Master down. I do still have just enough mana to replay Godo. And then... yeah, I think Mithril Coat makes sense here. And then if they cannot destroy Helm of the Host, we could be doing it. Play Fervent Champion just because. So do you have artifact removal? Or can you threaten 19 damage? They have a ton of mana, so it's certainly not out of the question. Crow Mox, even more mana. Vorinclex. They can potentially transform right away. And draw off Tyrants. Alright, Vorinclex transforms. Let's see what they hit. Primeval Titan's a good one. Roaming Throne can double Roxanne's triggers. But yeah, they look to be tapped out. We should be able to survive an attack, and then next turn we get to combo kill. So drawing that Hedron Archive was a big deal. Gave us the mana required to go for it, and yeah, opponent knows what's incoming. And there we go, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Thalia and the Gitrog monster. So I don't want to rely too much on my creatures to ramp me, since those are likely to get taken out. Also a bit of a nombo with our Sweltering Suns. I do like Sweltering Suns, since it might catch some mana creatures. Chandra also lines up pretty favorably here. So I like half of my hand, don't so much like the other half. So this one's close. I think I look for a hand with a bit more mana acceleration. And yeah, this is an awesome improvement. We essentially replaced our mana creatures with mana artifacts, and we even still have a sweeper. So could not have asked for a much better hand. Halfling attacks, so it's not ramping. So next turn we could already play Chandra to maybe answer Thalia, although then Chandra would die to the halfling. So maybe we prefer Explosion. Can go Iron Crag into Explosion, in fact. So that works. And then if they play something smaller, we can clean up with Anger. Yeah, normally this would only deal 3 damage, so the upgrade through, I guess it's Alchemy, has made it a bit better. Would still play it if it dealt 3 damage and made a Power Stone, but don't have that available, so I'm forced to play the better card. Surprised they said no to Tear Asunder, since that can answer our various equipment. Possible they already have some answers in hand. Taps out for a case of the Locked Hothouse, no additional lands to play. Alright, so now we can start to take over, maybe going Chandra into Fable. That looks good. If I just cast my commander, what happens? Helm could be exposed to removal. So I would prefer being able to combo off all in one turn. So we can give that a try. And not super attached to any of the cards in hand. Now, Thalia in play does mean that we're unable to combo off. If my copy from Godo enters tapped, it's unable to attack to untap the team. So Thalia actually lines up pretty well against our combo. But we do have enough answers to be able to deal with it. So ditch Katana and Anger. So let's see, opponent could have a Swords to Plowshares available still. I have 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. So not quite enough to play Godo and equip. If I attack, I get 1 additional mana. So yeah, this might be more of a setup turn. Can exile the top card. Find an Ironcrag Feat. Does that change anything? Can play it, 7 mana. I guess I didn't use the mana from Chandra. So then I would still be unable to really combo off here. So I think we decline. And just play Solemn, attack for 2. Chandra's also getting closer to an ultimate. And then I maybe hang on to Lightning Bolts. I can still Bolt plus Pyroclasm to finish off Thalia. Although we could always minus Chandra, I suppose. So maybe it's fine to deal with a Halfling. Okay, so we're also developing a secondary win condition in case they keep up answers for Godo. Sunrise can also make them additional mana. A doubling season. Okay. Opponent keeps up 2 mana. So 6 for my commander, and then 5 more to equip. So if they don't have removal, this would be lethal, but it does feel like they've got something up their sleeve. And get Helm of the Host. Does this work? It does not. They did indeed have a Swords to Plowshares. Back to the command zone. Still have a Chandra, which could ultimate next turn. So I'm curious to see what Doubling Season brings to the table. They had a Witch Enchantress, so they could have answered Helm if they wanted to, but didn't. So that's concerning, because they have a Liliana, which can immediately ultimate. Fair enough. So I get to choose a permanent of each permanent type, sacrifice the rest. So I get to keep Chandra. Reflection is my enchantment. The Shaman is my creature. I get to keep 1 mountain. And then Helm could be my artifact, although we're going to be somewhat far from comboing with Helm. I could still ultimate Chandra, so that's useful. Means I can finish off Liliana with Emblem. So I could also keep Solemn, and then I can activate Reflection to get additional lands. Maybe that's actually better. And then ignore Helm of the Host. If Chandra makes mana, I'm still unable to equip Helm. So I think we keep the creatures. Oh no, our opponent still has a Get Lost for Chandra. Feels like they might have wanted to use that beforehand to deny the extra maps. So we can still finish off Liliana. But that's where the fun ends. So Reflection, activate on Solemn. Get a land. And I can go exploring. The One Ring is not a bad card. Even though I might need to prioritize lanes. So finish off a Liliana, hit you for 4. All this has turned into a very interesting game. Did not expect to see a Liliana from the top ropes with a steel chair. So they can replay their commander. No, our opponent's got another Planeswalker, which they can immediately ultimate to give them access to a Liliana from the graveyard. Wow. Talk about top decks. Well, now what? Does the One Ring protect me from Liliana ultimates? Does it target just as each opponent, so it does not save me? That's rough. So I may not want to play the One Ring or even a land. Activate Reflection, target Solemn again. Finishing off Ren, I guess, doesn't make a huge difference. So I may want to go face. Although now the problem is they can also just play Liliana and start making zombies, and that's going to be able to stabilize them. So I might still want to play the One Ring after all. What a game. Yeah, I guess if I attack Ren, they get to replay it. And then -2 as opposed to being forced to +1. So it's all bad. They can jump with Halfling, get it back. Opponent takes it all. Yeah, let's just play the One Ring since I think happier if our opponent ultimates Liliana compared to doing anything else with it. I have been enjoying this Reflection plus Solemn engine though, I'll admit. And there's a chance we can set up Pyroclasm and have 2 creatures survive thanks to the extra toughness from Shadow Spear to get past a bunch of zombies. So yeah, this game is still gonna offer some interesting twists and turns. Liliana just gonna ultimate again, activate One Ring, and draw Nettle Cyst. So enchantment. Could keep Solemn as my creature, as opposed to the Shaman. A land. And then I could still keep the One Ring. Or I could keep the Shaman. That's kind of the choice. So what can our opponent do this turn? Nothing else to get back, so that's pretty much the end of their turn. So then if I just copy my creatures and attack, we might be able to get there. I guess Ren can still make a blocker. And they hadn't gained life yet. That makes it harder. So yeah, I don't have the mana to necessarily Shadow Spear equip. So then it's just Reflection, copy Solemn. Get a land. Attack, and there's a chance I can do something second main. Probably no point in going after Liliana, although then they could play Thalia and the Gitrog monster instead. Yeah, with extra treasure I can still second main Pyroclasm, but then we also lose Reflection. So that's not really great for me. Right now they would probably block the Shaman token. Take 5. I don't know. We actually traded for Solemn. So we draw. No point in Pyroclasming. Can play Shadow Spear. Draw again. Alright. How many lands did we lose this game? I guess I can check. Quite a few. Now make 2 zombie tokens. Yeah, the Sunrise gaining life is probably gonna make the difference. Did they find another Planeswalker, perhaps? Yeah, I wonder if we keep the One Ring, is that better? I get to draw a lot of cards, but we're just so far behind in terms of mana that we can't leverage those extra cards. And now Vraska can just end the game with a -10. Well, they certainly drew the Planeswalkers they needed. GG's. So it was more of a Super Friends deck in the end. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing off against Tifa, a mono-green, a landfall, aggro. Our hands might be too slow with no cheap interaction. But yeah, we've got turn 2 ramp, turn 3 ramp, and then maybe burn down the house to deal with Tifa. But we could just die on turn 3, so we'll see what happens. Gotta hope our opponent respects maybe a cheaper burn spell, and then maybe burn down can still stabilize us. At least our sweepers get around hexproof effects, but a lot of them also give indestructible, so those would still be effective. Turn 1 halfling, resolves. Can go for Cold Steel now. I guess a reason to still play Strike Master is that we can play Cold Steel off Hedron Archive mana. But if we're gonna maybe wipe the board, I don't want to lose my own creature. So there's Tifa with a mana left. Safekeeper can give Shroud, not indestructible. Alright, so interesting spots. I could play Nettle Cyst for a blocker, but I should probably just go for Vessel, because I'm not guaranteed to have mana for burn down otherwise. Alright, if they have the right pump spells and fetch lanes, we could be dead. but they don't have a ton of mana to work with. So it's going to be a Lotus Cobra and just an attack. Alright. Then Burn Down could save the day. With a land I could even play Archive first. So that's even better. Say goodbye to all your stuff. And then we're very close to just winning the game. And our opponent's just gonna scoop it up. I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Soul of Windgrace. Our hand's got potential. Don't think Sweltering Suns is necessarily going to be all that great. But 2 ramp artifacts, an Ironcrag Feat, can maybe speed things up. And then we'll see if we try and play Ironcrag Feat into Godo with enough mana to equip, or if we do it over the course of 2 turns. Depends whether they keep up removal or not. For now, play Cold Steel. Possible our opponent's also on a land destruction build, so that could also slow us down. For now, Windgrace, get back your fetch land. And Chandra lines up quite well here, getting to destroy Soul of Windgrace. Threatening to make mana next turn, so that was a good top deck. Not guaranteed to untap with it against a deck that's gonna have some removal. Opponent's just gonna replay Soul of Windgrace right away. Another one of those commanders that essentially pays for its own commander tax, assuming there's a fetch lane somewhere. But let's see here, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is +3, 10. So I believe I'm only 1 mana short of combo killing right now. Because yeah, I would play Ironcrag Feat, cast my commander, and then have 4 mana left, which is 1 shy of equipping Helm of the Host. But next turn we're probably gonna lose Chandra. I guess I could maybe start leveling up the talent as well. Play File, play Ironcrag. Could also decide to cycle Sweltering Suns, because equipping for free with Talent doesn't help when it comes to Helm of the Host, since they both trigger at the beginning of combat, so then we kind of lose the opportunity to go off with a Helm. But it can maybe help with other equipment, depending on which one we get. So yeah, if Chandra dies next turn with Ironcrag Feat, 7 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, so if I top deck a land, I could get there. Which would have been a reason to maybe just cycle Sweltering Suns to give myself the best opportunity. Roxanne, take out Chandra, Soul of Windgrace, get back a land. Only 1 mana up, so unlikely to have interaction, and we drew a land. So yeah, unless I did the math wrong, I think this is lethal. Can only cast 1 more spell. That's going to be my commander, but I can still equip my equipment. That works. I guess I could have still had a lightning bolt. So now we get to equip the sword as well for what it's worth. And now we get to keep going. Start by maybe getting a chainsaw. Even if we enable Revolt, they can't take out my 6-drop with a Fatal Push. Hit you for 3, get an extra attack step, find another equipment, and keep it going. And then we could move more equipment around. And get a Dragonwing Glider maybe. Attack. Can now maybe get an Ember Cleave to speed things up, but one more attack should do it. And yeah, our opponent has seen enough. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing a black-red Descent deck. Okay, our hand seems functional. A little bit of ramp, a bit of removal, and take it from there. Maybe this is a game where we don't go for Helm of the Host, but maybe get some intermediate equipment. Opponent might have a discard spell. It's gonna be Throne of Death. Okay, play Mind Stone. So this is a great way for them to enable their commander each turn. And that's fine, so we can go Signet into Chainsaw. I will take 3 damage. Even have the mana to play a Bauble. And Dragonwing Glider also kind of reinforces the idea that we maybe don't need the combo to win the game, as it's another decent threat. Next up is a Pit Fighter and a Bloodsoaked Champion. So a very aggressively slanted deck. So could already play my commander. Opponent is somewhat likely to answer a 3-3 in black-red. So don't have high hopes for it surviving. So I could get a Mithril Coat to make it indestructible, then it only dies to -X effects or edicts, like Shieldred's Edict, which is still a possibility. Question is a 3-3 indestructible good enough to win the game? Backed up by a Glider, maybe? So it's definitely a tricky spot. How close are we to playing this and equipping Helm? Can pay 2, get a land, cast Track It Rich, flash it back. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need 11 mana total. Maybe that's still okay for now. And then depending on our draw step next turn, we can decide to play Godo or wait to immediately play an equip. Up Nixilis hits the graveyard, also pretty good in this style of deck. Opponent also let their commander go to the graveyard, so one has to imagine they can bring it back. Quest for the Necropolis. Another way to reanimate creatures. But yeah, opponent's seemingly not hitting too many land drops. Alright, never mind, they found a Prismatic Vista to go with our landfall card. So if I top deck Ironcrag Feat, I believe I can combo kill next turn, assuming there's no removal. Otherwise, we can cast Godo a first time to get the Helm, and then a second time to make it indestructible. Opponent does tap out for the Overlord. Milled Unearth, another cheap way to reanimate creatures. Could now get back up Nixilis if they'd like. So we don't have infinite time to set up. So if our opponent just has 1 or 2 well-timed removal spells, we could still easily lose this. So what do we want to draw besides Ironcrag Feat? Maybe a big ramp card. That's a small ramp card. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, maybe I do just go Ironcrag, Glider, play defense. And then if I draw lands and our opponent stepped out, I can just win the game next turn. Not really in a hurry to attack for 4. And maybe this incentivizes them to use removal. Opponent's attacking. block the pit fighter. It's easier for them to return the Blood-Soaked Champion. Replace their commander. It's gonna deal 3 damage to us. Suppose I could also sank the chainsaw. Sure. Alright, file. So now I need to just play file, survive 1 more turn, and then hope they tap out. Now that I'm empty-handed, if I draw with Mind Stone, I get to draw 2. Could try that. Somewhat likely to hit my land drop. Maybe it's unnecessarily risky. Although it does seem like a fun thing to do. If I draw a ramp card, I'm likely to still be able to play it. Alright, 2 lands is fine too. So I could play my commander, but I think I'll wait. Just tap out, please. Anything in the graveyard that matters? Not really. So I could trade for their commander, could just block the Blood-Soaked Champion. And then I can take a bit more damage. Champion's back. So for 1 mana, they would need a pretty specific answer for Godo. Lightning Bolt comes to mind, which could also finish off my token right now. Opponent goes for Claim on the Pit Fighter. Alright, so the coast seems clear. I will take 3 damage. Could also sack the Rebel token. Defense Grid also could have helped against instant speed removal, but yeah, it's go time. I guess there's still a chance they have the Flare to make us sacrifice our largest creature. But I didn't have the mana to play Defense Grid first. So just gotta hope that's not what they have. Oh no, they actually have it. Flare of Malice. Greatest mana value, doesn't look at greatest power. Well, that was a blowout. I guess I'm staying back. So can't even trust someone to be tapped out nowadays. And we even had the solution with Defense Grid, just 1 mana short. Well, the game's not over yet, but yeah, it's gonna take a while to recover from it. Opponent had a Fatal Push as well, so they're just going for the throat now. We're at 7, trigger their commander, can sacrifice, or at this point discard Defense Grid. Is it gonna matter? I mean, I can replay my commander, make it indestructible, so I can maybe still survive an attack. So I should start sacrificing useless equipment like the glider. Actually, discarding a card might have made more sense with the file, because then I would have been able to draw 2 right now. Now I can play my commander, and then get Mithril Coat. Seems like the safest. Could also make a second blocker with either Nettle Cysts or Katana. But I think Mithril Coat protects me from most situations. I guess I may as well play the grid now. And then I can just sacrifice it. Alright, semi-dead after all. Yeah, definitely very fine margins. Might have made some incorrect decisions with commander, what to sacrifice or discard. Because if we're at 10, I would feel a lot more comfortable here. This is either an epic slow roll or we're gonna survive. I'll block your biggest creature. Take 4. They had a land. I guess champion only returns if you enable raid, so they couldn't do that before attacking, of course. Activate Pit Fighter. Trigger. I will sacrifice a permanent. I'll keep Defense Grid since I'm traumatized. Can get rid of a treasure. Equip Helm. And it's go time. Take action. Doesn't matter too much here. Start with a katana. GG's. Wow. Incredibly close game. Can afford to attack with my indestructible Godo, otherwise this would have been a mistake. Trigger again. Maybe get an Ember Cleave here. Opponent's at 4. And last one, make it Nettle Cyst. Alright, sweet. So we played some very close games with our Godo equipment combo deck. And Flare of Malice almost got us twice. So watch out for that card. Don't trust opponents who are fully tapped out. So yeah, the deck seems quite powerful, but it is a very linear strategy, so may not be for everyone, but it's a nice change of pace compared to your typical equipment decks that are more focused on just being a creature aggro deck. This is more of a combo deck at the end of the day. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.